Your pants, my man.
Touchdown!
Is this the dagger?
And Fernando Tatis Jr., a grand slam!
Iguodala. It's funny to hear a female talk about routes. Like,
Pull up your pants, take off the bra, and be a man.
Welcome to From the Backseat, hosted by Clark and Ethan.
it's funny.
Hello and welcome to From the Backseat. Clark and I are officially back. Now we have an actual schedule that I will be posting on all of our social medias tomorrow. So if you don't know, today is January 7th and the NFL regular season has just ended. We will be starting the playoffs on Saturday. So we are fully back for playoff time and into the offseason and the MLB season. So just to tell you before we get started, and before I introduce Clark, because I know Clark is waiting to say something, our usual days will be Mondays. So at Mondays, we will be going live at night, and that will be our baseball night. So we are officially just putting two different shows each week. We're doing a baseball and a football show. So baseball will be Monday, and then Thursdays is our football day. And during the off season, we'll be doing just our regular shtick that you guys kind of got accustomed a couple years ago. We won't be breaking down games, but we will be breaking them down through the playoffs. So stay tuned. Again, we're going to be Mondays and Thursdays from now on. We are officially back. And just like that, welcome on back, Clark. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah. Excited to be back. I feel like we kind of had some unofficial launches in the months prior, but been busy with work, as of you. So it's nice to be kind of settled back in here. Definitely a disappointing NFL season for, I think, both of us. I think it's, more or less sums it up in its best way. Didn't really roll our way, but that's all right because we still have great quarterbacks. And at the end of the day, it's kind of the biggest part what it takes to win. So just move on to next year, but still a lot to talk about in the NFL. Certainly.
Yeah. I mean, we have a ton to talk about. There's a lot happening, but I feel like before we get into the main show on what we're talking about, we just got to throw out, this was my roughest year as a Chargers fan. So if you guys want to know where I was kind of locked in a cave, just embarrassed for what was on the field for pretty much the majority of the year. Clark's team started off not good, went on a really nice hot streak, looked like they were going to take back the crown of the AFC. And then the Joe Burrow injury occurred, thus ending the Bengals season, but they still showed a lot of fight.
Yeah.
Kind of hoping they'd sneak back in to give me something to root for. But they ended up with a winning record.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, so I'll let you go first, unless you would like me to just briefly touch on the Bengals.
Why don't you touch on the Bengals? Because the Chargers are probably going to be in our conversations later.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, look, Ethan really kind of nailed it there first. It was sort of a season in my mind that never truthfully got off the ground for Cincinnati. The first 4 weeks, you were really just hoping Burrow doesn't re-injure the calf. We somehow get through that. And then for about, 4 weeks in there, they go on this torrent run where they're just not only beating teams, but doing it rather impressively so against teams that are, San Francisco, they went to the Bay, beat up on them, came home, beat up against Buffalo, beat Seattle. And then all of a sudden, you have the injury to Joe Burrow, and that just kind of ends it. Like you said, I am definitely liked, the spirit they showed down the stretch. I know there are some people who would prefer that we had just gone out there and tanked. But in my mind, I think there is something to be said about building a culture and maintaining a winning culture. And I think if we had just gone out there and lost every single game straight, that probably would have been counterintuitive to what I think the organization wants to continue to build, what Zach Taylor wants to continue to build, and I think what the roster was capable of. So maybe they win one more game. They're probably in the playoffs, which is a crazy thing, and I think they might be able to scrap out a game against someone. I think another thing, too, you have a backup quarterback now for next year for sure. You got to be happy with that with Jake Browning. But again, ultimately, it's just a season that feels incomplete, feels like a letdown. But again, when you don't have your quarterback, who's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, playing because he's hurt, it does make it tough to sit there and be like, we should have had it this year. Because the reality was that when he went down, everything sort of stopped. Like, that was it. So disappointing because it didn't roll our way, but it's 1 year. I still think they have plenty of time. The roster is still good. That said, this offseason, in my mind, will be probably one of the most important, if not the most important, in the franchise's history. Because directionally, there's going to be some changes, and I'll be intrigued to see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, our off seasons are going to be way different because for the Bengals, it's more of just they're fine tuning what they already have, whereas the Chargers are about to go into full rebuild, or if you want to call it what a lot of teams like, the retool.
I would say a retool is the best because you have the staple, you have the hardest part figured out, which is the quarterback, but then everything else is kind of like, what's going on here?
Everything else is overhauled. We're having a new head coach, a new GM, which the names being thrown out for the Chargers head coach are exciting, but again, it's the Chargers, so we'll see what actually happens there.
We'll see.
We'll see. I don't want to speak it into existence yet. It's kind of like saying Beetlejuice a little bit. If you are listening and you don't know who I'm talking about, watch tomorrow night's national championship, and you'll know who the Chargers are highly linked to, because it won't be mentioned over and over and over again.
He's got a new agent.
He has a new agent who has worked with the team before. And he said on multiple occasions, Justin Herbert is his favorite quarterback. So we'll see. I'm not holding my breath, but let's jump into the awards before I talk about the Chargers, because I know they're going to come up.
They will at some point in some capacity. Absolutely.
They will come up either talking about players or talking about the team themselves, because again, they belong in all of these conversations.
Yes.
So where Clark and I are starting today is, as you can see below me, I've written, this is the NFL season from hell. And there's a lot of reasons that this NFL season was from hell. And so instead of giving out MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Clark and I have decided to go with our own award ceremony to highlight why this season sucks so much.
And unlike the NFL awards, not all of them are leaked 2 hours prior to the awards ceremony. These are all new. No one's
Clark doesn't even know my picks.
No, and he doesn't know mine. He doesn't know mine either. So
we don't know where these are coming from. So if you have opinions, feel free to send them to us on socials. If you're listening to it on audio, if you're watching live right now, you're welcome to play along with us.
Yeah.
Because our first award of the night of the official From the Backseat NFL awards is most disappointing team. So we just had the NFL season end. Clark, I will let you crown your most disappointing team first, and then I will tell you who mine is, but I will let you begin.
So I think this is a team that I believe both of us at the beginning of the season said that they would have a shot at the number 1 seed in the AFC. They didn't even make the playoffs. They completely fell apart in the second half of the season. That would be the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are easily the most disappointing team that we saw this season. Again, they started off, I want to say, 8-3, 8-4, something like
that. So I'll tell you, this is my pick. So I had the same one.
So they started off 8-3, 8-4. They lose that horrible game to the Giants, and that starts this whole tailspin. I mean, the real thing, again, I had known they had troubles in the Jaguars. I was like, all right, they still have a good enough roster. They still have Trevor Lawrence, who at the time, a little bit more shaky on this thought now, was, top 5 ascending quarterback. They completely fall apart. They lose a horrible one against the Titans. I watched Jake Browning go shot for shot with them, which really, at the time, I was like, that's a huge red flag. If you're letting this happen, which Jake surpassed my expectations, but still pretty clearly a bad sign. Lawrence gets hurt, and then this defense seems to fall apart. The offense seems to lose sync, and it just felt like everything that could go wrong started to go wrong in the second half, and they had no shot at recovering. And again, I think for a team that we had both said, this is probably your 1 seed because the schedule was so easy, the talent was there, there really wasn't much of an excuse. And for it all just to flail apart and not even make the playoffs, like if they had scratched into the wild card, sure, it's disappointing, but you'd still be able to sit and say, hey, we're a playoff team. But this is a team that, at the end of the day, what a terrible job against the Titans. How you don't win that game, I don't know. But yes, the Jaguars, easily the most disappointing team this season in my mind.
Yeah, so this is my pick. We had both said before the year started, it felt like they were going to be the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Because the schedule was so simple. It was just kind of get done what you need to get done. They didn't play any like terribly hard games, honestly, this year.
Nope.
And I think the Cincinnati game is probably the best like way to encompass why Jacksonville was so wrong. Jake Browning came out a week before, could not throw the ball at all against
Nope.
Pittsburgh. And then Jacksonville served as not even a get right game because it was his second career start, but like it propelled him to actually playing well and give him the confidence that he could be a starter in the league.
Yeah.
Just because they were getting torched play after play after play, and it wasn't even that hard. Everything that the Bengals were scheming was open. Everything Trevor Lawrence was trying to do just doesn't work. At this point, Trevor Lawrence is a turnover machine. Like, there's no other way to put it. I've been criticizing Josh Allen pretty much this entire time. Trevor Lawrence is right there with him. I did not know this, but before this week, this week, they're actually tied, weirdly enough. Trevor Lawrence had led the league in turnovers since 2011, since 2021 when he was drafted. The player who was behind him was Josh Allen with one less turnover. Josh Allen had 3 tonight. Trevor Lawrence had 2 today. So now they're officially tied at 58. But still, Trevor is not getting it done. At least Josh Allen, you get some wow factor. Trevor,
I think
nothing there.
obviously, Trevor was close. That ball with Calvin Ridley there at the end of the game, maybe he could have come up with that. But still, I think just the way Trevor played down the stretch, and granted, I know he was probably hurt from that injury that he sustained against Cincinnati. But for a guy that I felt like a lot of people felt was going to take the leap again after how great he played in the second half of last season, after the playoff win, I felt there was a consensus with him that, this is going to be a guy that jumps into that top 5, could be an MVP, and with the team that he's on, should have a lot of success. And it just didn't work out that way. And it's sort of shocking to see because he's one of those guys, I think when you watch, you turn on the tape, you sit there and say, you have every gift. I mean, some of the best arm talent, great athleticism. He seems like he's able to diagnose the defense well enough, but it all fell apart this year. And it's unfortunate to see if you're a Jaguars fan, but it's also a concerning sight. Like, you have to hope that this doesn't happen. I mean, he's going into year 4 now. It can't happen again.
I mean, the question is, this is supposed to be when you're supposed to pay these guys. Like, are you paying Trevor Lawrence right now?
I think obviously you have to, right? I mean, the Jaguars, to his credit, would be irrelevant.
You're going to reset the market for Trevor Lawrence right now?
Are you resetting it? No. But do I think he's in a deal that's comparable to some of the guys right now? Yes. Because I believe if the Jaguars let him go, they're irrelevant. They're an irrelevant team.
I mean, I don't know. I actually don't know if I'm there with you.
All right.
I don't know if I'd pay Trevor, to be honest.
Well, he's got another year. I mean, this is only year 3. But
he has another year, and they'll probably pick up his 5th year. They'll probably take his 5th year option.
Yes.
I'm just not sure. I'm not sure what you do with Trevor, but speaking of that, let's move on to our next award. So our next award in the award show of disappointment is, of course, the most promising team. So we're going to get a little bit more positive here and move over. We talked about most disappointing. Now, this was a team that was supposed to be bad and probably was bad, but they showed something of they could be the Texans of this year. I mean, we haven't really talked about it, but the Texans had the 2nd pick in the draft. They're now AFC South victors, 4th seed in the AFC. So who do you think is the most promising team? We always see one of these worst to best teams. Who's it going to be next year?
It's the team that I put. Maybe this will be a little bit of a shock. But I feel like, again, they're one of those teams that has the biggest piece of the puzzle in place. I think this player that they have, it's the biggest piece, looked great here down the stretch. I think they're going to add a top receiver in the draft. I shockingly like the outlook of the Arizona Cardinals. All of a sudden, maybe I'm wrong in thinking that, but I think Kyle looks really good coming back from injury. I think they're going to be able to add a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. on the outside. I actually was surprised with how good of a job Gannon did in his first year of coaching. Honestly, I thought he did a better job than I expected. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is a little fool's gold. But I do like what Kyler did again. I think they have some. I like Michael Wilson on the outside. I think if you add Marvin Harrison, I like Trey McBride. Defense didn't play bad. I'm sure they'll be able to add more pieces. I don't know. Arizona finished last in division this year. They showed some serious fight down the stretch. Maybe that's just me. Maybe not the most potential, but I like Kyler a lot. I'm not one of those people that's given up on Kyler yet. I think Kyler looks great. I think he looks even better next year. We'll see how it goes.
So I was actually going to pick this team, but I'll just pick someone different just so we don't continue.
Were you going to pick the
down this
Cardinals?
team. I was going to pick the Cardinals.
Wow. What? Okay. See?
Yeah.
All
So
right.
the reason I was going to pick the Cardinals is Jonathan Gannon. I think this team, everyone was projecting to be the number one pick.
Yeah.
I mean, going into the year, everyone thought this team would suck. And while they didn't win a ton of games, they were in a lot of games. Their defense was good enough, and that roster is devoid of talent.
Yes.
Kyler Murray looks a lot better than people are giving him credit for. He doesn't have a lot of options. If people are being honest, James Conner is probably a top 10 back, whether people want to say it or not.
I want to say it or not. Just he's not
they're
aesthetically
about-
pleasing doesn't mean he's not a top 10, but he's up there when he's healthy.
He's up there and he's playing really well. Yeah, I like Arizona. They've just shown a lot of bite, but I'm just going to pick a different team just to be a little bit different. It's a team I think I would go number 2. But it's a little bit riskier. I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders.
Oh.
I think the Commanders, just
Okay.
because their owner has so much money,
All right.
they will throw whatever bag at a head coach and a GM that they want. And they will get probably Drake May.
Yeah.
And they will already plug it in to an offense with weapons,
Yep.
with protection, with a defense that isn't good, but hopefully they can find a coach that can make it serviceable, because I think that offense could be really good. I mean, everyone was fooled into thinking Sam Howell was the future until people woke up from like week 8 on.
Yeah. After about halfway through the season, he kept throwing it to the other team. People were like, all right, maybe this isn't going to work.
They're like, oh, this guy's Drew Lock. Never mind.
Whoa.
But
Show some respect to Drew Lock there, first off.
But that offense had convinced people because there's enough weapons. There's enough weaponry there. From an artillery standpoint, I think they can score a lot of points. I think the NFC East, to be honest, is heading in the wrong direction. I think the
Eagles certainly look fraudulent.
Are going to continue to get older, and they can't really fix the situation like people want it to be.
No.
Because, to be honest, a lot of these draft picks they took out of Georgia while they were falling players, and it was like, wow, look at all this value. They're really not that good.
Yeah, I mean, too. Plus, again, you look at the Giants. Daniel Jones sucks. Brian Daboll's head keeps getting redder, although they looked a little bit feistier. Dallas.
They looked feisty.
Dallas, I don't know. Dallas is good, but Dallas is just prone to lose the big game. Like, I don't have any faith in Dallas moving forward in terms of playoffs. I mean, yeah, that's.
In the NFC,
I agree. I think
so
Washington. Yeah, I mean, they have Curtis Samuel. They have Logan Thomas at tight end. They have Terry McLaurin. They have a number of guys out there, Jahan Doxson, who make plays. I think it's a solid receiving core and offensive line to come into. Defense is still terrible. Emmanuel Forbes looks terrible at corner, but corner's a hard position to transition to.
Yeah.
So, I could see
especially
it.
when everyone else around you sucked.
I think, too,
again, and they traded 2 edges. I mean, they're going to have a bunch of picks. They traded
dumb, stupid trades. Those look, I mean, I get it, but they look stupid now. I mean, the Chase Young one is one that looks stupid.
I mean, to a certain extent, like, it's hard with the trades. I mean, the Montez Sweat one looks worse. Montez Sweat led the,
yes, he did.
8
But
sacks
I think
in
Montez Sweat was
the
like,
half.
do you think you're going to be able to extend him?
No, I think from a certain extent, ownership was like, hey, like, we need to be as an attractive spot as possible.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of some of these players that we're probably not gonna like get them while their value is high. And I think that's what's gonna make them attractive. Again, a lot of people aren't saying this. I'm gonna come out and say it. I think that's where Ben Johnson goes. I think
Washington?
Ben Johnson will be the head coach of the Washington Commanders.
What about promoting Eric Bieniemy?
I don't think Bieniemy showed enough.
Do you think he stays on the staff?
I have no idea. But I've decided I think it's Ben Johnson.
All right. Well, that's interesting, but okay. I could see it.
Just because, I mean, we'll see. Just because I think the Chargers are out of the question. I think the Raiders are going to end up keeping Pierce.
I think the Raiders should keep Pierce, but yeah.
Yeah, I think they will. I mean, if Vrabel gets fired by the Titans,
That would be
then
a
I
mistake.
think that
It's hard to
I
actually
agree,
put into
but
context how bad the Titans are without Mike Vrabel, I think.
agreed. But that throws a wrench into the entire coaching cycle because I don't really, if he's available, I gotta think he shoots to number one on pretty
If
much
Mike
everyone's
Vrabel
list.
is fired, he becomes, I believe, the most desired coaching candidate out there besides
Yeah.
Harbaugh, or if Belichick
Yeah.
becomes available. But
Yeah, I just think, I mean, and New England's probably going to do whatever they can to get him in, but
I think, like, again, if you gave, I mean, honestly, the Titans with Vrabel, what they've done in recent years in terms of playoff success and getting there, considering the quarterback play and the offensive weapons, well, I traded AJ Brown, but pretty shocking. A lot of it has to do with Vrabel.
hey, I have breaking news.
What?
Black Monday started early. Falcons fired Arthur Smith 2 minutes ago.
Wow. Arthur Smith's last moments as a Falcon are memorable. Him telling Dennis Allen that was, quote, bullshit and to go fuck himself. That was great. I loved that. Personally, loved that. Also loved Jameis Winston's comments after the game, admitting to switching the play of a kneel down to a run with Jamal Williams. Classic. I really think Jameis Winston is possibly like my most loved obscure player because he does random bullshit like that all the time.
He's so funny.
Jameis Winston.
But he doesn't really understand like why people are laughing.
No,
but
he doesn't get it.
So funny.
I mean, again, there's just, that is a certified dog move when you're up 3 scores with 10 seconds remaining. And he's like, no, instead of kneeling it down, which we are in formation for, I'm going to audible this so Jamal Williams can get a touchdown.
Well, that's not even the best part. His real justification was we got a pick and got tackled at the 1 yard line. What were we going to do? Not score?
I think he also said, how much worse could it even get? So, which is a crazy point to make, but it's also not necessarily wrong.
It's not necessarily wrong, but it is funny. So let's save our Arthur Smith talk to the end. Let's move on to least valuable player. So this is, think about it, MVP. This is probably a quarterback award. This is our least valuable player in the NFL this year.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, you know what? We just talked about his backup. My least valuable player, Derek Carr. Look, Derek, I mean, this is the thing. Eyeliner boy, the guy that looks like he has mascara on every single game, showed up to the Big Easy and dumped his pants everywhere. He put the Saints in further cap hell. I mean, everyone should have known this was going to go wrong when the first thing he did when he got to New Orleans was go to fucking Chipotle. You know how insulting that is to every single person who lives in Louisiana and in New Orleans, that you didn't go out there and get some redfish, or you didn't get some boudin, or you didn't get gumbo. You're like, no, I need Chipotle. I mean, that was a disaster. And then not only that, besides that being bad enough, he played horribly this year, I thought. And there really wasn't much of an excuse because the weaponry is there in New Orleans, I think. And the defense is good too. And he went out there and he does what Derek Carr does best, and that is fucking play mid-football. And for some reason, because maybe he throws a good deep ball every once in a while, NFL executives and NFL teams have convinced themselves to give this guy not one big deal, but I believe now 2 total big deals in his career. Completely ridiculous. I think I liked it too at one point in his press conference when he was asked about New Orleans by New Orleans reporters about, what do you think about the boos that are coming down? And he was like, you know what? You got to laugh at it. You just got to laugh at it a little bit. And some fan from New Orleans was like, let's bring tomatoes next time and start throwing them because he thinks this shit's sweet or something like that. So I enjoyed, again, Derek Carr to me for how much they paid him for, I feel like, in a wide open NFC South, for him to get that much money and play this poorly and for the Saints to miss the playoffs, least valuable player.
So I was actually sitting right there with you. I did not go with Derek Carr. I went with, it just so happens we just talked about it. I was thinking Desmond Ridder.
Yeah,
Desmond Ridder, like all he needed to be was a game manager. All he needed to do was hand the ball to Bijan Robinson, throw screens, throw just easy hooks to Kyle Pitts, and then throw the deep ball every once in a while to Drake London. And he failed miserably at all time on task.
No, I mean, I don't know. With Desmond Ridder, exactly your point. He has all this weaponry to work with. And granted, Arthur Smith wasn't necessarily using it to the best of his ability every time. But Desmond Ridder successfully underwhelmed as often as he could. And I think the worst thing that happened to Desmond, too, was agreeing to do a deal or a sponsorship with DoorDash because he has all those DoorDash commercials now.
Yeah.
So whenever he plays bad, they're like, oh, someone just drops a video of that DoorDash, him delivering it, like found Desmond's new job. And that's got to be tough to log on and see that every day.
I mean, yeah. But Desmond Ridder is my least valuable player. I mean, it takes a special kind of person to be benched and then unbenched and then benched again and then unbenched. And then they put him back and they're like, oh, maybe he learned something. And then he learned absolutely nothing.
They learned jack shit. They hate him. I feel sort of bad. I guess, again, my roommate, Jack, goes back to Atlanta. We used to work in Atlanta. They hate him there for some reason. I mean, he's bad, but he's not that bad. Like,
no,
he's not,
like, I mean,
like, what do you expect? Like, I think it's like the one thing it is tough. Like, I agree with the pick, but it's also like, okay, you guys hate him so much. He's like a fourth rounder. It's not like this is like a premier pick. Like, okay,
yeah, but the thing is that makes it like the reason I put him as least valuable player is like he just didn't have to do all that much. Like,
I agree.
That's
that
the
I agree
thing.
with.
I really sit there and I'm like, he just had to be the most like below average game manager.
Yeah.
Like, and he decided to be everything but that and make things too complicated and throw it to the other team for no reason.
I mean, he'll continue to excel in that throughout his career, I'm sure, if given another opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, he would love to do it, I assume. Another least valuable player I thought about was Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. I mean,
Kenny,
what a disaster.
what a nice career.
I mean, I'll briefly touch on this. I can't believe I have to watch the Steelers play a fucking playoff game again.
I know
they're going to get shelled. By the way, they're not good. It's just they go out there and win these stupid ass games, and then they get
and they always play the Chiefs in the first round.
Yeah, and it's just a cakewalk. It's going to be so easy. I mean, no wait, Kansas City plays the Dolphins, I think.
Oh, who do the Steelers play then? I know that the scenario with
they might play Buffalo.
Oh, really? I didn't know how seeding worked out. I knew one of them was Pittsburgh was going to play Kansas City, but
I believe Buffalo plays.
Oh, because Buffalo became the 2 seed.
That's actually worse. Buffalo is going to kill them even worse than Kansas City would, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, yeah.
Whatever.
Great. But Kenny Pickett, that would have been a good choice because he's completely incompetent. I think you should, if you're an NFL executive or a GM and you're thinking about drafting a guy that has to wear gloves on both hands as a quarterback, forget it. That is not good. The only two, like Bridgewater was the first guy that I can remember, and he had like a decent career, but Kenny Pickett is ass. I mean,
not only that, the only reason that people knew who Kenny Pickett really was in that one bowl game where he cheated and did the fake slide thing.
Yeah. Like his career, that should have been, it was fine. Like it was good, but I never was like, oh, first round.
Wow, look at Kenny.
And the Steelers like, oh, we got to have that. And now Mason Rudolph is outplaying him.
Yeah. So
also to think that Mason Rudolph yesterday was going to lose on January 6th, his favorite holiday probably, is crazy. So of course he was going to win that game.
I mean, it's hot. It's his like.
Yeah, seriously.
It's better than.
Needs to check if Mason was at the Capitol that day. I think he could have been.
So let's move on to most disappointing player. So we did least valuable. So now this is like kind of offensive, defensive player of the year. Somebody outside of the quarterback room. Who is your most disappointing player?
I'll let you go first on this one.
So mine is. So I will say I was originally going to go Kadarius Toney because Kadarius Toney, all Chiefs fans acted like he was going to be God's gift to the earth, and then he single-handedly lost 3 games for the Chiefs. But I decided to go a different direction with a player who held out for a bunch of money and was so bad the entire year. It's Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
Austin Eckler from week 2 until week 18, averaged 2.5 yards on the ground. Today, his final stat line to end his Chargers career, he had 10 rushes for 11 yards. Just to cap off what a great, great season young Austin had. Austin Eckler went into the Kellen Moore system, which is supposed to benefit all running backs, as he had Zeke and Tony Pollard. He was supposed to be the Tony Pollard. He was anything but that. He was slow, he was old, and he was bad. He wasn't even a good protector, which he was good for a long time. I mean, it's kind of sad to see all those fantasy guys sit there and try to tell me that he's a Hall of Fame running back because you're so far from the truth on what Eckler is and what Eckler was. Yes, Eckler was a very good running back for the last 2 years, but he fell off an enormous cliff and was so bad. He got an incentive deal that he had to get 1,000 scrimmage yards. He somehow did not get it. This is Austin Eckler we're talking about. The
On the
feature
field a
back.
lot. I mean, he missed a couple games, but on the field.
I mean, he was on the field a ton, and we had no other back. Like, there was no one else to even take snaps from him. So mine is Austin Eckler because, again, this is a dude who held out. And then he also fumbled the ball 5 times this year. I forgot to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll keep mine short. Not really like a thrilling one. I think it was, again, just because of a team that was disappointing this year. But there was a lot of hype around Darren Waller going into the season. I think Darren Waller woefully underperformed. Darren Waller, second best athlete in his family. Kelsey Plum, his wife, La Jolla Country Day High School alum. The far better notable athlete at this point. Sorry, Darren, but it's true. She's a baller. Anyway, yeah, Darren, I felt like everyone was taking him. I mean, I know it's stupid to attribute things to fantasy, but people were talking about being a top 5 tight end this year with Daniel Jones being in Dayball's offense. And it felt like he went MIA for basically the entire season. Was just cashing game checks. There wasn't much else to that. Waller, the other guy that comes to mind, crazy how far he fell off the earth. Miles Sanders.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Miles Sanders was awful this season.
I mean, he lost all of his snaps to Chuba Hubbard by the end.
You
of the
could
year.
basically say everyone outside of Adam Thielen and the Panthers offense was what? I mean, remember when there was like talk? I don't know if it was just me who saw this.
No, I was the one. I said it on the show during free agency when everyone was talking about how good the Panthers were.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, this receiving core of Chark, Thielen, Mingo should be threatening." I was like, "That's a lot of not great players, and one of them's a rookie. Chark's been on like 4 teams. Thielen's old as shit, and Miles Sanders played for the Eagles last year. So what do you know?" And then, of course, I mean, Thielen was good, get his credit, but everything else is terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, those would be my 2. Waller and Sanders. We'll give you.
That was also a crazy quote from Adam Thielen after the game today of being like, "Oh, I just wanted to play for a contender." What?
Didn't work. You guys are
Okay.
ass. You're gonna be ass, and your owner throws drinks at people now too. So that's not great.
Not great. So next up, most in need of a rebuild. So which team right now in the NFL? I can go first. I already have one.
Go for it.
So mine is the Chargers. So this is where I said we eventually. This is eventually where we'll bring it up. The Chargers need to rebuild bad. When you actually look at their roster right now, I think they only have like 6 building blocks that you would actually be confident that you can keep on to next year. And luckily, they're high in the draft. I mean, Clark got a witness. Cole and I basically rooting for the Chargers to lose.
Yes, that was on display very well today.
Yes. Cole and I were determined to watch them lose, and we're mad when they started playing well. Chargers need to rebuild bad. Justin Herbert is really, him and Slater are basically the only pieces on offense that are worth keeping right now. Everything else outside of it is just not good. QJ, maybe one of the biggest busts of the draft so far.
Yep.
Josh Palmer, I mean, he's like a fine piece. He's someone you'd keep as like your 3rd receiver, but he's not someone you're sitting here like building blocks.
Posting like we have Josh Palmer. You need a game plan for that.
No, like he's a fine player. Like he's a good like 3rd guy. Like you're happy about him, but like he's not anything special. Keenan Allen, while he had a career year, he's older. You have to be ready for that. The end of Keenan is going to happen soon. Gerald Everett, whatever.
I like Gerald Everett a lot, though.
Yeah, I mean, but again, for some reason, the Chargers just didn't throw him the ball.
Yeah. Maybe
I'm not going to lie. I would love to see Gerald Everett go on over to the Bengals.
I would too, but we're probably going to stick with Tanner Hudson, which is stupid.
Yeah.
But oh well.
I would love to see him on the Bengals. I think that would be a great fit.
I would love to see a tight end on the Bengals that actually does something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and then on defense, you could throw the entire defense in the trash outside of Khalil Mack and Thule. Those are the 2 players. Honestly, we're talking about the Chargers. Like maybe their best player this year, their MVP outside of Khalil Mack was Cameron Dicker, their kicker, who missed 1 kick all year.
I told you.
And I mean, yes, Dicker the kicker is the real deal.
Should have been a Pro Bowl.
But yes,
that video alone.
Yeah. So who's your team in need of a rebuild?
Yeah, I kind of bounced around a couple teams in my head, but truthfully, the team that's just in most need of a rebuild, I think, is just the Commanders. I think the Commanders just need to blow everything up. I'm Riverboat Ron.
Yeah,
I'm
throw
a
that
classic.
out.
He's got to go. The Ron Rivera era, it's over. Sam Howell's got to go. I think a lot of the defense has got to go. I think it just needs a complete overhaul. The front office obviously needs to change. I just think you look at it, you got to bring in a new quarterback, got to bring in a lot of other pieces on the defensive side of the football, just blow everything up. You don't really have much to lose. So just go for a complete reset. The only other team that comes to mind, and I think it'd be a big one, I don't know if they're going to end up doing it just because it'd be such a momentous one, would be New England. I think New England is a team that it's crazy to think, but I think Kraft and Belichick's relationship has just soured. There's no other way to say it. I think there just needs to be a general shakeup. Belichick can't draft. He's a good coach defensively, but he's a horrible GM. I just think they need to move on from one another.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to our last award. We're almost there through the award ceremony, which is one piece away. Which team, and this can be a team in the playoffs right now.
Yes. Which
team do you think is just one piece away from hosting the 2025 Lombardi Trophy?
I'm going to keep it off my team. I don't want to pick my team because I definitely could just go ahead and do that, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to pick a team this might surprise, but I think they are more or less one piece away. I'll be intrigued to see how they play in this postseason. But the Green Bay Packers.
Oh!
I really like the Packers. I think you saw a ton of growing pains with the super young offense and a really new quarterback to the system. But all of a sudden, Jordan Love figured it out in the second half. The LaFleur system clicked. Jonathan Wicks clicked. Christian Watson clicked. Jalen Reed clicked. They have all these guys. It's a young offense. It's growing together that I feel like you shore up that defense a little bit more. You give Love another year. And all of a sudden, this is a team I feel like in a weaker NFC can be a 1 seed, can be a 2 seed. I really think the Lions' reign in the NFC North may only last 1 year. If I was to pick right now, I'd say Green Bay would be the favorites going in next year to win the NFC North. I like Green Bay that much.
Wow.
Like, I think this is my bold idea on it. Maybe I'll be wrong on it. I think next year, Love will be a top 7 quarterback.
Whoa.
And I think Jonathan Wicks profiles, and we'll be talking about in the same idea of receiver as an A.J. Brown. I think they're very similar. That's just
wow.
I have what the Packers have done in the second half, what I've seen from Love. Watch out. 1 piece away, maybe.
Wow. That is not where I would have went.
All right. That's fine. Again, I wanted to keep it a little bit different. Of course, I could have said the Bengals. Why would I? I mean, of course I could have, but I'm not going to do that. It's no fun.
All right. So my 1 piece away, kind of like it's kind of hard to imagine because they're going to get pieces back.
Yeah.
But I actually think this team is 1 piece away. And I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns. I think Kevin Stefanski deserves so much credit for what he has done this season. I mean, the fact that he resurrected the corpse of Joe Flacco to win 4 games for them, win down the stretch. Now, I don't know how they're going to do in the playoffs, but the amount of injuries this team has had to deal with for them to be sitting in this spot. Now, the issue is my 1 piece away, what I would hope would be in kind of a new quarterback. And
I would agree. Maybe don't want to employ the sex offender any further, who's not even good.
So I would prefer that not be the QB, but I think that team, they're close. I think Stephen Stefanski is the future. It's funny. I was also thinking about the Minnesota Vikings was another one I was thinking. Because I think Kevin O'Connell.
I also think the only thing I would push back on the Vikings is I'm very certain Justin Jefferson has no interest in staying long term anymore.
Oh, I don't think so either. I think
that's what hurts that. And I think Addison's great, but I don't think Kirk comes back. I think Justin Jefferson's probably like, this shit is awful. And I even like Kevin O'Connell as a head coach, but I feel like they're a team that could benefit from maybe like a retool, as we call it, rather than a restart. Draft the Michael Penix, who I really like, maybe.
Yeah.
See if I can entice Justin Jefferson.
I mean, they're at the number 11 pick. I would not be surprised if they.
I feel like that's the team that will pull the trigger on Penix.
I think so. I mean, I'm not.
Or JJ McCarthy. Why would who wouldn't take JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, who wouldn't take him?
He's so good.
I mean, He's about to win a national championship.
Might as well. No, we're kidding.
We
He's
all saw
terrible.
what AJ McCarron did.
Might as well.
All right. That has been our award ceremony. So we got a little bit more time left with all of you. Thanks for all of you who are listening. Make sure to subscribe if you're listening on YouTube. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, wherever you're enjoying this. What we're gonna move into is we're gonna test Clark's knowledge a little bit. And that's
Great
with
segment.
who ended up as the top 10 passers in the NFL this season. So I got the list of the final top 10 passers, bunch of injuries. We're going to see how well Clark can put these together and if he knows the order in which they go.
Oh, the order?
Well, no, I mean, just.
I'd say the order's crazy, but yeah, okay. Well, yeah.
Well, how about this? Do you know who the number one is? Do you know who ended up with the most passing yards?
I have a guess. I don't think it's right, though.
Okay, what's your guess?
Okay, so it's got to be an offense that threw for a lot of yards. It's also got to be a quarterback, that threw for a lot. This is going to be Jared Goff.
Jared Goff is number 2. He was passed on Sunday Night Football by number 1.
He was passed on Sunday Night Football by number 1? So it was either...
Yes.
Was Tua number 1?
Tua ended up as number 1.
Wow.
With 4,600 yards, and then Jared Goff had about 4,575.
Just a crazy low number of passing yards for quarterbacks this
I
year.
know.
Crazy low.
You know who 3 is?
Not Josh Allen. Dak?
Dak was number 3.
All
Dak ended up
right.
4,516. Do you know who number
All right.
4 is?
Number 4. Again, someone who has to have stayed healthy, been in a good offense in theory.
Yes.
I'm going to go with the guy who benefited from a ton of yak this year, Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy was number 5. Brock Purdy was number 5 with 4,280 yards.
So someone's ahead of Purdy. Mahomes?
Patrick Mahomes is number 6.
No.
With
Right, so I haven't got any out of the
4,180.
top 10 yet. I'm just not getting number 4 here.
Yeah, you just don't know number 4. We can go 4 or 7. Either way.
Stafford?
Matthew Stafford is not in the top 10. With 3,965
I would have thought he would have been.
Remember, he
That's
missed some
wild.
time.
All right. So we already said Purdy. We already said Dak. We said Goff. Well, the guy who was second, I was just talking about, Jordan Love.
Jordan Love is number 7.
Okay.
Jordan Love with 4,159 yards.
All right.
So we're still
Jordan
looking
Love
for
at
4,
7.
8, 9, and 10.
All right. Next one we'll go with the favorite for offensive rookie of the year, CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud is number 8.
Okay. All right.
4,108.
I'll go to another friend of the show who I called, or a part of the most disappointing team this year, Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence is number 10.
All right.
Basically 4,000 yards.
All right. And so what slots am I missing at this point?
So you are missing number 4 and number 9. And I will tell you they're from different conferences.
Number 4 and number 9.
Yes.
Trying to go through the divisions in my head, so I'm going to write these out. So no. Josh Allen.
Josh Allen is number 4. You said his name when you were talking
There we
about
go.
it.
Hello, Josh.
messed
How's it
it.
going, buddy?
At 4,306 yards, he ended up 4th in the league. So
now
now
I
all
just
you're
need-
looking for is number 9.
Number 9. And you said they're in different conferences. This guy's being NFC.
This is an NFC quarterback.
No, couldn't be Kyler. Couldn't be that. Can't be Derek. Can't be Bryce. Can't be Desmond. Oh, Baker?
Baker is number 9.
Wow.
4,000.
The Bake Show is at 9.
Baker Mayfield ended up at 9. You want to hear something even crazier? You want to know who's at 12? Hey, Clark, can you hear me? I think you cut out.
My mic turned off.
Oh, that's okay.
I was saying, could you imagine if the Browns had Baker? Do you think they still wish they had Baker?
I have no idea, but do you know who's at 12? Is
it like a name I'm going to know?
Probably not. It's Sam Howell. He somehow ended up at 12.
Because he just threw the ball over the place like an idiot.
Yeah, and Derek Carr was 13.
No foresight or need for progressions and reads. Just throw it to the other team. Get it out of the way.
Just do it early. Who cares?
Screw it. Why not?
So to end today's show, we are going to move into talking a little bit about Black Monday. But before we do, friend of the show, Trevor, said, I ordered DoorDash after the game and was surprised to see Desmond Ridder at the door with my pizza. Glad to see he's getting ahead of his inevitable.
Well, he's just really trying to push for those extra tips. He's going to need it because he will be unemployed soon. Find a new job, Desmond. I'm thinking Desmond will end up. He'll back up Derek Carr. He'll be with the Saints. Actually, no, the Saints have Jameis. They can't move off Jameis. Who am I kidding?
You don't think famous Jameis is going to stay?
No, you can't. You can't move off Jameis. Maybe he goes to Cleveland. He wants to University of Cincinnati. We have Browning. We don't need Desmond. Although I'd take Desmond. I kind of like Desmond, but that's fine over here and over there. Anyway, Desmond in Cleveland, maybe. DTR and him compete. Backup, maybe starter. Deshaun kicked out of the league. Hopefully by then. New charges. Bad guy.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Who knows? All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about Black Monday a little bit. So tomorrow is the inevitable day where a bunch of coaches and GMs are fired. This year, it might not actually be as bad as years in the past because we've already had quite a few coaches fired. As I said, during this show, Arthur Smith officially fired. So to recap the list of coaches whose job is already available, starting off, first firing was Josh McDaniels. So the Raiders' job is open. Although, in my opinion, it should probably be closed. I don't know how you feel on that. But next was the Chargers firing Brandon Staley, and then the Panthers firing Frank Reich. Now, Arthur Smith is added to the list. So starting off, do you have any general reactions with those four teams?
I think Atlanta is the most desirable of the group, right? I think they have the roster that's most ready to compete in a sense. I think it's the easiest one to step into.
I think it depends on what your goal is, because it's hard to ignore Justin Herbert in the 5th overall pick in the draft. But in Atlanta, you already have so much firepower. You just got to find the quarterback.
That'll be the tough part. Yeah, I would say if you're,
I think Justin Fields, I would be calling Chicago.
I would too.
Italy. And
I just don't know. Do you think Chicago moves off? I don't know. I think
so. I think so. For some reason, again, and this is why fans are GMs. All of a sudden, all those Chicago fans were like, "No, don't get rid of him." And then after today's game, they're like, "Yeah, he sucks. Let's move off." Like today's game was really that big of an.
Well, I never want to play in Chicago. I bet it'd be cool to play in Chicago or New York, but the fans would just be the worst. I think honestly, but whatever. Back to the point. I think, again, in my mind, the easiest one to step into in terms of you can probably win games year one easily enough, Atlanta or the Chargers, because you have Herbert already. The least desirable of the jobs gotta be Carolina.
We can talk about other potential. We can talk about potential ones as well if you want.
Yeah, again, I'm trying to think of one. Like Carolina's got to be the least desirable, right? No one.
Yeah, you don't have a first round pick.
Construction. You don't know what Bryce Young is.
You don't get to pick your quarterback. You don't have a first round pick. The roster is devoid of talent. Which, by the way, somebody we haven't talked about who deserves a bunch of props and somehow got snubbed from the purple. Derek Brown getting 100 tackles this
crazy
year
from a nose tackle spot.
Is the most insane stat I've ever heard before.
Yeah, 100 tackles at D tackle / nose tackle is crazy. Derek Brown was absurd this year.
That means he got 7 tackles a game, and he basically doesn't play on passing plays, unless if he gets a sack, which I don't even know how many sacks he had.
The Panthers defense, I don't really remember that much. I feel like the Panthers had playmakers on defense.
It's pretty good. It was top 10.
Like it had Brian Burns, it has Derek Brown, it has J.C. Horn in the secondary. Jeremy Chin's okay. Like
it has pieces. The thing is,
the offense just has nothing. The offense has zero.
Like you have nothing to build off of. Like you have no building block.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like the again. The one I will say, just thinking about the Raiders, I think really should keep Antonio Pierce. I don't see any reason not to. You know what I mean?
I mean, the players like him. They're winning.
I agree. Which
I mean, again, the biggest thing if Antonio Pierce should say in the head coaching interview, and if he gets let go in, I assume the other interviews he would get, he beat the Kansas City Chiefs without their quarterback completing a pass in the last
half?
3 quarters. No, it was the last 3 quarters of the game.
You're right. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's another insane stat, which I don't even understand how you win a game that way.
Don't ask me. I mean, I agree. I think it's pretty crazy the fact that Kansas City let that even occur. But no, I agree. If you're Antonio Pierce, that should be one of your talking points. Again, I just think you should say, hey, look how night and day the performance of the team was from when we had Josh McDaniels to when I took over. Again, if the Raiders did let him go, like I get if you gave him a shot this next year and then you're like, all right, it didn't work. You want to go to someone else, especially because I don't think the coaching pool is great this year out of the opportunities of people you can get. Plus, I feel like maybe learn from a mistake. Rich Bisaccia did a good job, got you to the playoffs, and then you didn't bring him back for at least one more year, and you got McDaniels. I just feel like keep around the guy that worked in the last part of the season. The players clearly enjoyed. Stick with that.
All right. So to end off, I'm going to list off a couple of the teams that are potential firing candidates, which we don't have confirmation on yet. And I'm going to put you in the shoes of the owner.
And say,
would
fire
you move
stick?
up? Yeah, fire or stick. So let's start off with the New England Patriots. Are you moving off of Bill Belichick?
I would fire Bill Belichick. Yeah, on the condition. Okay, I will say there's a condition with this. You keep him if he agrees to give up the GM spot. If he agrees to give up the GM spot and will stay the coach, I will keep him there. If he says he has to continue to be the GM, I'm firing him.
Okay.
I mean,
so it's him
the
as the
draft
general
class
manager.
just how was great, but it's been years of the same shit. They can't draft offensive skill players. They can't draft a quarterback. Obviously, Brady's only been gone for a little while, but he's not doing his job on that end very well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would move on from Belichick. I just think at some point New England needs a change.
Yeah,
and the fact that they're like New England people are like floating on like, oh, we'll just bring in Josh McDaniels.
It's like you guys have no feel.
It's like, oh, we're just keep Belichick if you're just gonna bring in Belichick people.
Keep what's in there right now.
Like, why move to the worst versions of Belichick? Like,
I agree.
Or they're like, let's just promote Bill O'Brien.
Well, I just think in general for New England, I just think it's best just to break it off altogether, really.
I think you just need a clean shift, whole organizational shift.
Because in a way, too, with Belichick, you still as a franchise almost have the shadow of that Brady era almost casting over what you are at this point. People can't detach from that if you still have one half of the equation still sticking around.
I agree. I think you just need a clean sweep. Now, the one former Patriot that would make sense if fired is Vrabel. So let's talk about the Titans.
I think realistically, you have to keep Vrabel. I think Vrabel's coaching prowess and history, track record, whatever you want to call it, speaks for itself. Again, they have gotten a number 1 seed with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback with him as head coach. I think the qualities of a Vrabel team shows every single season. I think Mina Kimes pointed this out. You do not want to see Mike Vrabel on the other side of the field when I feel like you have a game that's of pretty big importance because it seems like he gets his team up every time to play those games.
Yeah.
Like Tennessee is always competitive. The defense is always very good. I feel like he gets a lot, or his OC gets a lot of the offense considering I don't feel like it has a ton there. I'll be intrigued to see what Will Levis does in year 2. I did like part of him. I feel like he's like the superhuman Lego that you'll never truthfully be able to put together because all the tools are there. I just don't know if he can mesh it.
Well, I'm going to take you back a step now.
Yeah.
So let's say Tennessee does fire Vrabel. If you're Robert Kraft, you've already fired Belichick. Are you throwing whatever Vrabel wants to get him back in New England?
Possibly, but then it almost comes back to my same point is that he's like a member of the Belichick tree.
He is, but
I mean, he's different, but it still feels like that's a staple of the same history that you're continuing to hold on to.
I know
like if you're gonna let go of Belichick, you have to do it in its totality.
I think so too. It's just That's the one where it gets a little sticky. Where I'm like, I think because Vrabel, I would also assume would want to go there.
I think you would too.
That's-
I think there'd be a mutual interest.
That's why I'm kind of like, you could do it. And it just fits New England.
Yeah.
Like that hard nose. It would just fit New England.
I think it would too.
All right, I'm gonna move you over. You're Jerry Jones. Dallas loses next week.
What round are they losing?
They're losing next weekend, so in the wild card round. They lose. Are you moving on?
This one's
from Mike
tough
McCarthy?
because Dallas won 13-4 this year.
They did and won the division.
Dak's probably going to win it. Dak might win MVP.
No, Lamar is.
Lamar is. That's why I said he might. He might win MVP.
Well,
Lamar
how
will
about
win
this?
MVP.
He's in the running.
He's in the running. Lamar should definitely win MVP. And I would, again, even as a Bengals fan, this might ruffle feathers. I would personally love to see Lamar win a Super Bowl because I feel like everyone needs to shut their mouth. They're like, make him a running back. Blah, 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 blah. No,
Or
he's one of the
he's
best
not
5 quarterbacks in the
Quarterbacky or
NFL.
whatever that person said.
Just ridiculous. No, Lamar's great. Again, as a Bengals fan, I don't like the Ravens. I really like Lamar. So it's very difficult to have those two things occur at the same time. But if you're Dallas, back to the point, you have the 2 seed. You have a quarterback that was in the MVP conversation for most of the year. You have CeeDee Lamb. Great offense. You have really good defense. If you lose in round 1, I don't think that they would, but I'd consider it. I don't think, again, if I'm in Jerry Jones's eyes, I don't think Jerry Jones is going to do it. However, if it's me, I would get rid of him because it's just the same stick. It's the same thing every time with Mike McCarthy then at that point.
I agree.
They've won playoff games. They never gotten to a championship. They haven't gotten to a Super Bowl. He's been there for a while now. I think it would be like, all right, we've seen what we needed to see. You can't get us where we need you to. We have the players and personnel. Kind of has to fall on you.
Would you promote Dan Quinn then?
I like Dan Quinn's defense.
He'd
But
be
I've
the
seen Dan
natural.
Quinn as a head coach, and I know Dan Quinn can't get you there. I don't think.
I mean, he
got them
to
there.
Dan Quinn, he did get them there.
He did get them there.
They just didn't win. I mean, they got up 28.
I wouldn't go with Dan Quinn. No, I would not hire Dan Quinn.
Would you go
I
with
wouldn't.
Belichick? I know I've seen a lot of people.
No,
say,
no. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen.
I've seen a lot of people float that idea that
I think you
he's
need an
gonna run the
offensive-minded
Ravens.
coach over there again.
One more.
Yes.
Well, maybe 2 more. We got to talk about this one. You keeping Eberflus in
God.
Chicago?
No. Okay, this is one that's codependent on what they do with Fields. If you're keeping Fields, then you keep Eberflus. However, if you take Caleb Williams, you fire Matt Eberflus because you can't have the two of them together. It's not going to work. I think you get a fresh start if you're going to bring a new quarterback in there. But you keep Fields, keep your Eberflus. However, if it's my decision, I'm firing Eberflus into the sun. I've seen enough of that guy. He doesn't do anything well at all, I don't think. And frankly, I'll be honest, if I was owner, I might get rid of Ryan Poole still. I don't think Ryan Poole is a good GM.
I would get rid. I don't
think Ryan, he saved his job with a sweat deal. That looks good. However, been a lot of stupid shit with him. The Chase Claypool thing, I haven't forgotten that. I mean, not great decisions.
No, I mean, Ryan Poole has just basically been bailed out by that he got the first overall pick.
Oh yeah,
this
he
year
would
out of
be
that
long
trade.
gone if he didn't get that first pick this year.
That's yes, the deal looks great. I mean,
I think
good for him.
Even if they did, if they had not gotten on this mini winning streak and played better down the stretch, he would have been gone.
Well,
If
it's
they
not
had
only
struggled
that.
down the stretch, he would have been gone.
It's not only that. I saw this thrown out there, and I didn't even think about it. He passed on C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, he did because he's an
He
idiot.
could have had C.J. Stroud.
That's the thing I don't get. Again, Bears fans really like him. I don't think he's good at his job at all.
I mean, what? Terrell Edmonds? What a disaster of a free agent
Yes,
signing.
he tried to trade Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson's really good.
I mean, he's done a lot of just stupid stuff.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
He got lucky with Sweat.
Incredibly. If Sweat didn't
And
work
he
out,
got lucky that the Panthers suck.
Yeah,
That's
basically what it is. He's got really lucky the Panthers are dog shit.
That
Ryan Poole is not a good GM. Don't let your friends try to tell you that he is either. He's a really bad GM. He has no clue what he's doing.
He's what Ryan Pools is to me is like Madden GM of like
Yeah,
where
he
I'm
is.
sitting
He's
there
just
and I'm like,
I
you know
could do
what?
this. Will you
I
accept?
a second round pick that turns out to be the first pick of the round for Chase Claypool. Why not?
So dumb. But yeah, he's gotten away with it. But again, if
He's
we're
gotten
going
away
back
with
to
it.
the original question, I'm firing Eberflus. I think Eberflus is a dunce.
One more thing on Ryan Pools, underrated move that he didn't do. He let David Montgomery walk out the door for like
Yeah.
not that much amount of money, and then they had no running back.
I mean, I like Roshan Johnson, but they didn't use him at all this year.
They didn't use him. All right, last one. This is my actual last one. What are you doing at the Saints? Are you getting rid of Dennis Allen?
Yeah. I don't know why Dennis Allen's still employed either. Dennis Allen, Dennis Allen's definitely getting fired. I think he's a shitty head coach. He's just like the definition of mediocrity when I watch him. The Saints, there used to be a day when I get excited. Like if the Saints were on primetime football growing up, I was just sit there and
it was breeze.
Game. Now I watch Dennis Allen, who is just an idiot, and I just sit there and think, all right, this team's going to finish 8-9. They'll finish 9-8. They're not going to make any noise in the playoffs. They're in salary cap hell. And I don't know, truthfully, what his coaching style brings to the table. And the last time I've seen him on a field now, he just basically got big dogged by Arthur Smith. Like, you know how embarrassing it is to have your head coach walk out there. And Arthur Smith just tells him, you stupid fucking idiot. Why did you do that? And then Dennis Allen on the hawk mic goes, you're right. We shouldn't have done that.
Jameis Winston in the locker room afterwards was basically like, yeah, we just overruled our own coach.
Yeah, you know how little respect for you as a coach they have if you have your backup quarterback sitting there saying, yeah, we're going to run this fucking play right here. You're not going to do shit about it either, you stupid idiot. Yeah, no, Dennis Allen's got to go. There's no one in that locker room has a lick of freaking respect for that guy.
But I will say the organization, underrated, horrible organization.
No, I mean, they're just burning money. That's all they do.
They're going to get to a point where they're like, the only thing they can do is restructure contracts and convert void years. And at some point, they're going to like not even have enough money to field the.
They need to fake an insurance scam. They need some sort of insurance scam, or they need a money launder. I don't know.
You know, they're paying Taysom Hill $40 million next year.
Yeah, well, that was ridiculous to begin with. I don't know. I remember when that news broke years ago now, and I sat there and thought to myself, what is this? What does he do except occasionally run like a quarterback draw?
Fake.
No, he's useless.
That was like the definition of everyone being like, oh, look, the salary cap's fake. They can just do this. And then you watch them this year and you're like,
oh, wow. Maybe it's not fake. And this team is horrible. Yeah, wow. Oh, I didn't know they didn't have any money to spend, and this is why the team stinks. That's crazy.
Weird. They can't sign any free agents and can't re-sign any player they have.
Yeah, but then they signed. Okay, that's the thing too. Then they signed Derek Carr. Like they went out there and they were like, "We're gonna need that." They gave him that money. It's like, all right, sweet, dude. I hope that works out. It won't.
Well, it's because they know the other thing is the Saints, like, they can't trade up to get any capital because they need those rookie contracts. Like,
yeah, I will say this. This is the only thing. I probably shouldn't say this. But Dennis Allen, I swear to God, that dude's got like a C cup out there. That guy's got a huge ass, man. That's the only thing I remember. I saw like week 7. And I was like, holy shit, dude. What? And that's stuck with me ever since. And again, I don't think that's going to help him moving forward or any respect to the locker room. But yeah. No, Dennis Allen has got to go. It's over.
He's got to go, but they said they're going to keep him. But I also wonder if it's like a money thing because like they're burning so much money that like they can't even like get rid of him, really. What do I know?
I should figure it out because again, the last image I have of him getting big dog by Arthur Smith, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. We shouldn't have done that. Stand up for yourself. What the hell was that? Don't agree. He like walked away. It was scared of Arthur Smith.
It's also so funny when people online are just like, yeah, just stop it if you don't like it. And then you just hear Arthur Smith like, no, he didn't have done it.
No, he's like, all right.
Well, yeah. Hopefully Dennis Allen is fired tomorrow. We'll see. One more quick one. Todd Bowles. You getting rid of him in Tampa?
No, I mean he's third straight NFC divisional champ. You can't get rid of him. Oh, he's fine. He's just like, okay,
Oh, I guess
I
that's
like
true. They
Todd
won the
Bowles.
division. I kind of
What?
forgot.
Yeah,
I
they
kind of
won
thought
the-
they lost today because they only won 9-0. Kind of forgot.
I think they've been fine. I think Baker probably got himself a contract extension there too, like 3 years, $100 million.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been
Yep.
From the Backseat. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be back on Thursday. We will actually be previewing the playoffs. So
Yep.
this is our recap of the regular season. We'll preview the playoffs. Probably talk about some of these Black Mondays. Maybe talk about some of the head coaching candidates. If there's like a surprise firing, like if Vrabel is actually fired, or if Belichick stays, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit.
Yep.
Or I don't know. There was some other surprise one. I mean, there was Tomlin being floated, but there's no way he's getting fired.
Tomlin, no, he won't not be fired.
So this has been From the Backseat. I hope you enjoyed it. We will see you guys on Thursday. Make sure to come back to YouTube, or you can watch us on Twitter. You can watch wherever you'd like. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Have a good one, folks.